Hello, everybody. This is Survivor NSFW's coverage of the Circle Brazil for the first 4 episodes. I am here with Kim Mattina, the winner of Survivor season. I'm sorry, actually, of Sequester season 2. Wish it was Survivor.
Wish it was Survivor season. That would have been.
Would you want to play Survivor? I need to eat and sleep. This would not be the game for me.
You know what? I would love to play Survivor. I would suck at Survivor. They would, seriously, I'd never make it off the boat coming in. They would kick me off for whining right from the start. So I would never make it in Survivor. Big Brother, on the other hand, oh yeah, I would do that in a heartbeat. A heartbeat. But yeah, so Sequester, for those people that are not familiar with Sequester, it's very similar to the Genius, which is a Korean show. And so it's kind of a cross between the Genius and Survivor and Big Brother, in that everyone lives in the same house. And it's very fast paced. It's an entire season filmed in 5 days. And at the end, there's a winner. And they've done 3 seasons now live. I was fortunate enough to outlast everybody and win season 2. So it was fun. It was a lot of fun.
And that is always admirable, but especially, as the older woman stereotype. I mean, you go in with 2 strikes against you.
Absolutely. You know what? I was 20 years older than the oldest person there, actually 24 years older than the oldest person there. So that was kind of a big deal. Plus, on my season, we had a number of reality stars, including like Krista DeBono from The Amazing Race was on, Hamza and Jesse Larson and Cindy with an S from Big Brother Canada. They were all on it. And Judd from season 15 of Big Brother, Judd Daughtry, Party Hardy, he was on there too. So just the fact that I won it was so exciting. But the fact that I was able to outlast these people that have done the big shows, that was huge. It was great.
And coming in, like I said, nobody wants to play with their mom.
No, not at all. But that's probably, I don't know. I don't think that they ever actually looked at me as their mom. So it was, I came into it going, I need to connect with everybody. On some level, I need to connect with everybody, and it will not be on the mom level. Mm-hmm. And it happened. I found something. It didn't matter. It could have been the fact that I like, I don't know, Hawaiian pizza with pineapple on it. If there was one other person, there's my connection. So it was a lot of fun. And what a great show. If you haven't watched it, you can go to sequesteraccess.com and check it out. They just finished up season 3, the airing of it about a month ago. And like I said, I was season 2, and I am the only female winner so far. So not only am I the token old person, but the only female winner so far. Yeah. So it's a lot of fun.
Great. And then tell me about your Circle Fandom. When
my
you discovered the show, how did you start?
My fandom. I started watching the Circle UK with season 1, and was really intrigued by it because I thought it's like this brings this different element of socialization that is so different than being confined to a beach on Survivor or in a house like in Big Brother or in Sequester. It's like they're not seeing each other. So you really have to be able to display your emotions and your feelings and your thoughts through words and emojis and hashtags. And so I was intrigued by that. And then I watched season 2, where, let's face it, I was a Tim fan right there with everybody else. Mm-hmm. And then when they rolled out season 1 US on Netflix, it's like, okay, cool. And at the beginning, I wasn't a huge fan of it, but it grew on me. Mm-hmm. And now, ta-da, Brazil. Where massage.
We were really kind of in the first wave. I didn't discover the show until close to the end of season 2,
Oh, okay.
Karen Armstrong from RHAP discovered it and started, first, tweeting about it, and then did some Twitch streams about it. And then I went back, watched season 1, etc.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, we very easily could have missed this. And I just really, really enjoy it.
You know what? And I've loved, I think twice now that he's had Tim on. And
Mm-hmm.
I love when Tim is on there with them. Taryn becomes animated when Tim's on there, or when someone that he's kind of crushing on is on there, then he's no longer Taryn bot as much.
Right. Yeah, no, Tim, I saw Tim also when he was on RHAT, and he was fabulous. Absolutely.
Oh,
fabulous.
yeah, absolutely.
So let me just give people a very basic rundown, just in case anybody hasn't seen The Circle. I'm hoping that if you're here, by the way, we are going to have full spoilers, obviously, for the first 4 episodes of The Circle Brazil. My goal is for this to not be spoiling any of the other seasons. I don't want to spoil the UK or the US. I'm sure that there will be times that we might want to refer to a player or something like that, but I'm going to really, really try to avoid spoiling, because I'm assuming there are a lot of people who haven't gone back and watched all the seasons. And even, now we have a perfect opportunity to discover more shows.
Right.
So we start with this. So the premise is that we have 9 people, which is interesting. In the past, it's been 8, but they put 9 people into an apartment building in Salford, near Manchester, in the UK. This is something that they don't really publicize in the US season or the Brazilian season. They kind of want to pretend that it's taking place in that country, but it's not. All of the various seasons. And there's also going to be a French season that is dropping on April 9th on Netflix. And these are all available on US Netflix. They are subtitled. Oh, sorry, back to what I was saying. So there are 9 people in separate apartments in Salford. They cannot see or hear each other. Those apartments are soundproofed, and they're soundproofed well. And the only way that they can communicate with each other is through this app called The Circle, which looks kind of like Facebook and kind of like IG, right? Where you can post pictures and you can post statuses and you can like people's statuses.
Right.
I really was just intrigued by this from the beginning, because the whole premise of the show is anybody can be anybody online, right? Who would you be if, I think in this case, $68,000 were on the line? And so it's just interesting to see what people think will be popular, and then see whether that in fact bears out. But they start with 8 or 9 people, and people get voted out. You rank, again, a little bit different in the first UK season, but they give you, a picture of each of the other people, and you have to rank from your favorite person to your least favorite person. But it's not that the least favorite person goes home, generally. What happens is the people who get the top 2 cumulative ratings become influencers. And they meet, quote unquote, again, not in person, but they get together and they discuss it, and they can send home anybody else. Everybody who is not an influencer is at risk. They send somebody home, and then a new person will come in up to a point. At a certain point in the season, obviously, they stopped putting people in. The other thing that's fun is that when somebody gets sent home, they have an opportunity to meet one person. And that is a real in-person meeting, face-to-face. You get to see who this person is. And that will happen a couple of times in this, in this batch of episodes, and we'll talk about it more then.
Right.
But so we start with an apartment building, and first person walks in. And so who comes in first? We have Akel. I hope I'm pronouncing this right.
I think it was Akel when I've heard them saying it. Yeah.
Right. I guess I'm not really listening because I'm reading subtitles, so I'm missing.
Right.
So I'm sure I am massacring these people's names and various words in Portuguese. I apologize up front. So Akel is a business student. He wears this Radiate Positivity t-shirt, which is kind of a little bit of his brand. He likes to gossip, which I think in this game could be very valuable. If that means that he understands the role of information in the game, then he's probably way ahead of a bunch of other people. And the fact that he walked in first made me think, okay, this guy is probably going to be a big character, right? And I was really, really looking forward to him until he says, I am not going to be playing as myself. I am going to be playing as a 30-year-old dietitian.
Yeah, so he's not really a catfish because he is who he is. If he goes to meet people, it's who he is.
Right.
It's who his picture is.
Right.
Because that's one of the things with the Circle is they're presenting themselves on a social media platform. So they've got profile pictures and everything up there. So his profile picture is him.
Right.
But he's playing a doctor who's 10 years older than what he really is. Right. And I find that very interesting because at 20 years old, I mean, like acetaminophen was my medical extent. And so I can't imagine as a business student that he has a medical background, but I don't know if you caught it. I don't remember if it was on the first episode or the second episode. No, it was on the first episode when he talked about he dated a girl for like 4 months who he pretended to be a doctor while he was dating her.
Right. I saw that.
And he said to this day, she still thinks I'm a doctor. Well, obviously until the Circle airs, but I'd be so pissed. I would be so pissed off. Am I allowed to cuss on this?
Yes, this is Survivor NSFW. You can say whatever you want.
I know it is, but I can have a sailor's mouth here once in a while. So I just want to make sure.
On this podcast, that is absolutely fine.
Okay, good.
But this is my question just in general. What do you think about catfishing as a strategy?
I think it's difficult to maintain that catfish persona for the entire season. So for a day or two, can they pull it off? Sure, they can. But we saw in other episodes where people slipped up and said something. Maybe they were playing, they were a male catfishing as a female, and they say something in text, because remember, you're not actually hearing the words, you're only reading it, that came across as too aggressive, that all of a sudden made people go, that's a catfish. So I think it's difficult to maintain, and we're going to see how they do on this.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think the other issue that has come up, and I think I get this idea again from Taryn, that people who are catfishing tend to be kind of quiet because every time they open their mouth, so to speak, they are risking exposure. And that itself can also be a problem, because if you are constantly having to check everything you say, you're less likely to share. And that can get you into trouble. So I understand the idea of wanting to catfish. And again, depending on who you are and who you are catfishing as, I understand it more or less. But in this case with Akel, like I said, pretending to be a doctor, I mean, that's a big reach. And yeah, so he has some practice. But as we will see, you know, with that, you can very, very easy to get into trouble. And I just don't think it was necessary. There's no reason he can't play as a 20-year-old business student. But I digress. Okay.
Right. Or as a 25-year-old businessman.
Right.
So if he's going to catfish, maybe keep it in the same line of business as what you're studying, as opposed to making a reach as a doctor.
Right. I think it might be similar with Survivor and Big Brother about, yes, there are certain times where maybe you do want to lie about your profession, et cetera, but you want to think about it really, really hard and only do it when necessary. And when you do, like you say, try to get something that's close to what you really do so that it's not a complete reach. Like with Nick Wilson, he didn't want to tell anybody he's an attorney, which I understand. So he said that he's like a social worker who works with criminal defendants or something like that. Right. So he was able to use a lot of his experience without saying, I'm a lawyer.
Exactly. And even something as simple as using legal jargon. If he said he was a farmer and then all of a sudden brings out, you know, modus operandi, and people would be going, what farmer would ever say that, right? I think it's kind of the same thing here with Akel, is that if he says something and it's not right, remember, he doesn't know what these other people do. I would be bringing up something about a break that had happened, or an infection, or something that would lead down that medical path. And I'd be watching for how long it took them to answer. And we did see that in specifically in the Circle UK. There were a couple of times when the Catfish, if you're watching and it takes them quite a while to respond, yeah, red flags all over the place.
Although they do have, the one thing that they do have that helps a little bit, but again, there's a limit to that because we even saw it in the Circle Brazil. You can't wait too long. But for those who don't know, this is not really a voice activated app. Okay. They're in an apartment, they're talking, and then there's a producer who's typing everything that they say. Yeah. And then it comes up on the other person's screen and they do it again. So that there is a lag, and that lag does give you a little bit of time to think.
Yes.
And I think, for everybody, that's probably helpful, but especially for a catfish, the fact that if you have 10 seconds to think, that's probably really helpful. Yeah. If it drags on for, 2 minutes, you're going to be found out.
You know what? You brought up production. Do you mind if I take a step backwards for a second?
Sure.
Now, one of the players from Circle UK was talking about production and what all production does as a part of this. Because one thing that's very interesting is they've got like a rooftop hot tub area, so there's an opportunity to go outside.
Right. We should go through. I forgot about all this. I guess I'm kind of assuming that people have seen at least the Circle US, but maybe that's not fair. So you want to elaborate on that. So yes, they are locked up in an apartment, but.
Correct. So they've got a rooftop hot tub area. They've got a gym that they can go to. I found it very interesting that each of them has their own handler. So when you're talking about Big Brother or Survivor and or even Sequester, where we to some degree had handlers, but in the Circle, because they can't see each other, the handlers, it's almost choreographed on who they take from their apartment to the roof. And then once they're on the roof, then they can take someone from their apartment to the gym. Or when they're going to the area where the influencers discuss and vote, they have to bring them in one at a time to make sure that they're not seeing each other. So it's very interesting, and it's literally like a dance of production to make sure that these people are not seeing each other. And from what some of the Circle participants have said, they really legitimately never saw each other.
Johnny and I interviewed Shuby, Sammy, and Miranda from the US, right? So we were able to get some, inside scoop. And yes, that is exactly the point, that they have to be very, very careful that they never hear, a peep from anybody. And actually in the UK season 1, there actually was a time where people could kind of hear, but it was just the scream. It was not particularly, but actually as a result of that, they moved to a different building and increased the soundproofing. So
right.
They take it very, very, very seriously. But anyway, so like as you said, I think they get it's like prison, right? You get 1 hour out a day and you can pick one thing. Do you want to go to the yoga room? Do you want to go to the hot tub? Whatever. And like you said, and they're constantly moving them around the building in such a way that they can't see each other. But other than that, like apparently those apartments have balconies, but they are locked because they are concerned about people hearing each other. Right.
And the windows, they can't open up the windows. They can't open up the slider that goes to the balcony. None of that.
And apparently it's very, very hot. I did not see any signs of this, but in the US version, we kept seeing fans in the apartments. And it's because it was just incredibly hot and they couldn't open any of the windows.
Exactly. So, but Akel, he tried opening one of the windows on one, and no, wasn't going to happen. Sorry.
Right.
So but Akel was the first one to come in. What do you think of him? Because I think he's kind of egocentric. I just feel like he's got an ego overflowing.
Well, I mean, you're right. I just have a theory that no shade to you, but most people who go on reality TV shows, have a decent ego. If you don't, you wouldn't put yourself out and try to get on a show. So looking at, if that's your yardstick, right, it didn't strike me that he was. There are other people, I think, that you could describe that I would attribute that to even more in terms of then you're having a really inflated especially the last person we're going to meet right before we end the 4th episode. That's somebody, I mean, she calls herself a narcissist. And, if you're calling yourself a narcissist, that's a high level of self-awareness, but it's absolutely true. Right?
Absolutely. I agree.
Yeah, I mean, he thinks highly of himself. I mean, he's a good-looking guy. He's going to be a businessman. There's no reason he wouldn't think highly of himself. But
Right.
At least he clearly, I think of all these people, he's probably the one person who bothered to watch some episodes because he seems to have some idea what's going on.
I think so. I think there's actually a couple of them that saw some episodes prior to coming in, only because they made some references that I went, ooh, they got that from from the Circle
Right.
UK, or they got that from Circle US.
But how could somebody go on a show, and this always bothers me, right? You're going on a show for $100,000. Take a day and watch a season. It's just not that hard. But
Exactly.
I mean,
It
again,
doesn't matter what show it is.
Yeah.
I agree with you 100%.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
And of the people that we had spoken to, several of them admitted, I think Sammy said she watched an episode or two and she got bored.
Yeah, no, I mean, I look at it as a job interview. And so if I'm getting cast for a show, you better believe I'm going to know at least the history of it, some of the players in it. I'm definitely much more of a strategist than, I mean, I'm a social player for sure. I have to be at my age. I have to be.
Right.
But I'm definitely also very much a strategist. And I want to know what's worked for people, what hasn't worked for people, and why it hasn't worked for people. So that's all going to be a part of what I would be looking at.
Right. But this happens all the time with people with Big Brother and Survivor. Now, in that case, they're generally in sequester, for a week or 10 days before. They're sitting in a hotel room. They have nothing better to do. And even then, you would think you would binge 10 seasons. Right. That doesn't happen. But normally, then at least they've probably seen a few episodes. But in this case, I think with the US, I think it might have been Shuby who was the only person who really knew what was going on.
Right. He did his homework. Shuby did.
Right, Shuby did, and I think you can tell instantly. And yes, there are certain issues when super fans play, right? I'm aware of those because I'm going to put it out there. This is the first show I've ever wanted to play. All the other ones, I enjoy them, but like you said, I just know that I would not be particularly successful at Survivor or Big Brother. Whereas this is a show that I look at it again, partly because as an older woman, right, I feel like that you can kind of avoid some of that stigma.
Right.
Obviously, if you play as a catfish. And I'm not sure anyone wants to hear all my whole theory of what I would play as and why. And probably I shouldn't say it because I could always end up in a cast with somebody. But these are the kind of things you want to think about. And if you're not thinking about it, you're just not going to do particularly well. Like I said, if you're going to play as a catfish, I do feel like your road is going to be harder. You've got to be an even better player to pull it off. And that's why when I look at Akel, I just don't think it was necessary.
I agree. For the most part, I agree. At least he kept it, confined to he's playing a catfish that's at least the same sex as what he is. Because if you go with the opposite gender or any type of fluid gender,
right,
you've got to pull off this whole different realm of things that you may not be prepared for.
Right. Well, the more you change about yourself, the more you're opening yourself up to possible problems. Now, there is something that Johnny and I discussed when we were discussing the US versions, this US season, that they use the two terms interchangeably, right? Everybody's either yourself or you're a catfish. Right. But I feel like there's different ways that you can catfish, right? You can either catfish and just completely play somebody else, right? Mm-hmm. Like when somebody plays their girlfriend or whatever. Right. And then there are other people who kind of use it as a skin, as I describe it, where you use personality, you use, right? So real catfish, like I said, if you are catfishing somebody on the internet, you want to just you're an actor, right? And you've made a character and you want to inhabit that character. Whereas there's another way to quote unquote catfish on the Circle where you use your own personality, you use your own reaction, you use as much of yourself as you can while changing specific things about yourself. And I do think, like I said, that is less problematic than just deciding I'm going to play as my girlfriend.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I agree with you. And I think putting on a different skin is a great way of describing it. I really like that.
Right.
And it's so
but
true.
Even that, I'm saying do it as little as possible.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
But
it's amazing. You can create a whole persona, right? Who do I want to be in this game? But I would always default heavily to start with who I am. Like I said, same thing on the other shows. I feel like when you start lying to people on Survivor about what you do, and anybody, you know, like I said, knows something about what you do and starts asking you questions, you have a problem.
You can get yourself in a lot of trouble doing that. Absolutely. And I think we see that with the next one who comes into the circle.
Right. So our next person is Dumaresque. I'm going to call him Duma because that's what people start calling him after a while.
Right.
He's the obligatory fabulous gay character. I would say they always have one on every season, and this is ours. And he's great. He says, I am not discreet at all. He loves to expose himself on social media. We get to see him, quote, he says, eating, pooping, showering, kissing. Now, of all those things, you know, most of them are fine. I'm really hoping he doesn't actually post videos of himself pooping, but, you know, with this guy, I wouldn't know. He says he has a lot of nudes out there. He says if a guy asks him for a nude, he sends all of them. So he's an open book. Right.
And over here, oh, hi, Maximum's mom. By the way, she just subscribed here to Survivor NSFW today. And so she was saying, especially with the age difference in catfishing, they always get caught. Absolutely. As soon as you skip a generation, you will get caught at some point. Now, Duma he's not a catfish.
Duma is playing on himself.
He's his incredible, fabulous self.
Right. He's not only playing as himself. I mean, it seems like, you know, radical honesty is almost his strategy, right? He's just going to go in there and tell people what he thinks.
And how good do we think that is?
Again, you know, it's a fine line because with all of these things, you know, the whole thing with being in the circle is you have to share. You have to be vulnerable. You have to be able to open up to people. And I feel like that the more you can do that, the more popular you're likely to be. Because I'm just looking at the previous seasons, you know, obviously I understand, again, even on this season, we see all different ideas that people have about what will make me popular. But the main thing is if people just feel that they really get to know you. And like what you were saying before we started about, you know, bonding with different people in the cast, just find something that you have in common with each person. Right. That is the most important thing. And I feel like he's going to be able to do this. I mean, I did kind of dismiss him a little bit at first, just because I felt like, oh, they're ticking the boxes. Here's the gay guy. Right. But I think he's, again, somebody who has thought about this, possibly seen it. You know, he made some mistakes. I feel like all of them have made mistakes. I don't know if anybody has really been playing well, but at least he put some thought into what he was doing.
And he puts a lot of thought into what he's saying and how he's saying it and who his audience is when he's saying it. Although we're going to see what I think was a big blunder later on, episode 3, I think it was.
Yeah. Like I said, I don't, even just in 4 episodes, I look at everybody and I think all of them have made different kinds of big blunders.
Yeah.
Again, at least he's kind of coming in, he's thinking about what he is doing, which seems to be more than what a lot of other people are doing.
True. Very true. And he, you know, when he talks about himself being out there, he is truly the flamboyant gay. I mean, let's face it. For those of us that watch a lot of different reality shows, we see different, I don't want to say levels or stages or different ways that they present themselves, not only in person, but also on the shows that they're on. He is the epitome of, he was walking on a treadmill wearing glittery shorts, glittery short shorts, silver glittery ones, super glittery ones on a treadmill. And I'm thinking, oh my God, you got to see, your balls are going to sweat in those. But, that's all I could think of is like, oh my God, his balls have to be so sweaty right now. Sweaty balls.
And I should make this clear. I'm not just saying, that there's a gay character. I'm saying that this guy basically is Chris on steroids, for those of you who saw the US version, right? Chris was successful, flamboyant gay guy's work. Let's find a much more flamboyantly gay guy.
Absolutely. Chris, I thought, was more likable.
Yes.
Okay. So I'll put that out there. But yeah, this is Chris on steroids.
Right.
Without a doubt.
Okay. So the next person who comes in is Marina. She's 25. She's a flight attendant. And the first thing that comes out of her mouth is, I am my butt and my butt is me. Okay? That's which is fine, but I'm not sure how that's going to help her in a game where nobody can see her. And then she decides also she's going to tell everybody that she's a singer. What's wrong? Tell people you're a flight attendant. Flight attendant is a great job to have for a show like this because you're not threatening, right? Everybody has stories about flying, right?
Right.
But she wants to be a singer.
But I saw it later on when she was kind of talking about some of her insecurities and body image and things like that, that the way she was positioning it was almost that if she put herself out there as a flight attendant with the pictures of her, and don't get me wrong, she is gorgeous, but she's also much more voluptuous than what the stereotypical flight attendant is, that maybe people would think she was catfishing in saying that.
That's interesting. Because, certainly in the US, I don't think somebody with that body shape could be a flight attendant, right? There are very strict limits on how much you can weigh and things like that. Yeah, I think that's still a thing, right? It was certainly a thing, years ago, but my understanding is it's still a thing.
Maximus's mom compared Dumas to Frankie Grande, Brazilian Frankie Grande. I think actually it's Brazilian Frankie Grande on steroids even. Yeah. So
but I kind of just don't like Frankie Grande. And so I'm trying, but, and I don't think, do I like Duma? I don't know. There's certain things I like about him. There's certain things about him I'm not sure I like, but we're only a third of the way through the season.
Right. Exactly.
Okay. Oh, and then so back with Marina. So maybe you're right with her body image or whatever. But again, I would think anybody who dresses the way she dresses and twerks the way she twerks couldn't have, I'm just questioning how serious your body image issues could be.
You know what? People put on a show for other people. So I think we saw some vulnerability from her later on. But at the beginning, she's fine with twerking. Oh my God, speaking of twerking, how many of them did not know what twerking was?
I know. And this is actually a good time to also talk about just the cultural differences. This is one of the issues with the show like this. And I have always loved watching international versions of shows. I used to live overseas. And so I couldn't really easily access US versions. And it was just as easy for me to get UK or Australia or another English-speaking country. So I discovered this years ago that a reality show can really be a window on a society.
Absolutely.
And even how they value, the best thing I think the argument, America's Next Top Model was always a questionable show. And now it is, a complete joke. Whereas in the UK and Australia and people like that is a serious modeling competition.
Yep.
People take it seriously and people get real jobs after. And also a lot of the international versions, they have much longer episodes, much longer seasons, so that you actually get to know people. So there's lots of positive things about, checking out shows from different countries. The negative is obviously these people live in a different society. And obviously there are going to be many, many, many similarities, but there are probably going to be some important differences that we may not necessarily understand looking at it from the outside.
Well, and every one of them that there were a few of them that said they're from Sao Paulo, and Sao Paulo is so divided. Either you're wealthy or you're not. There's really not a middle class there. You're either living in the trenches or you're living in the castles. So seeing the ones that said they were from Sao Paulo, we don't see what their background is necessarily. Just kind of can base it on the pictures that they're presenting if it's of themselves. So I'm anxious to look up and see where some of these folks are from.
Right. And there are all these things about, like, there's a, kind of an alliance of people from the Northeast. It's clear. And they talk about the stereotypes of people from the Northeast. I have no idea what that means. Right. And so we are missing some parts of this. But, obviously we haven't, that, people are still people.
Right. Exactly.
We're just not going to get. And like you said, we're going to see that, some of these people don't seem to know what twerking is, but obviously they know a bunch of dances that I've never heard of.
Yes. So, yeah. Without a doubt.
Right.
And then who came in after?
Next, Julia.
Julia.
Julia comes in and she says, I want to prove that looks are deceiving. And then we see this because it's not really Julia, it's really Rob. Right? Rob is 34 years old. He is a cutler, which means he makes knives. And he said, he wants to catfish again, to break the same things we see on the other season, the other countries. It makes sense. I want to break stereotypes. But even then, is he doing this because he's afraid that people aren't going to like him? Right? He says people see a wild bear, but inside him a Care Bear. Great. Show me that. Right? I feel like he could go in there as himself and then just show that appearances are deceiving. Yeah,
I think he could have too. I find him really interesting because he's got this personality that draws you in, and we can see that in the first episode, and people want to talk to Julia. They start calling her Auntie.
Right.
In the first episode, they don't even call her Julia. They call her Auntie.
Well, he starts calling himself Auntie, right? Do other people call her Auntie?
Oh, yeah.
Really?
All of them were. You'd hear reference to Julia once in a while.
Right.
But it's like this favorite aunt that everyone wants to have at the family reunion because they're going to do something crazy and wild and they're fun and you want to kick back and have a drink with them. But then you see him and he's got that whole biker look to him with the tattoos and everything else with it.
Right. And that's the thing. I could even understand if he was concerned about that. And so he wanted to catfish, but he's catfishing as somebody else who had just as many tattoos. It's basically, it sounds like she's kind of like basically the female version of him. And she is It turns out that Julia is his daughter's name. And I forgot this woman's name, but she's a friend.
Right.
And he did say, again, with not using these words, but he basically said, it's my personality. I'm playing as myself. I'm just using Julia's photos.
Right.
And again, if you're going to catfish, that's the way to do it. I love him. I wish he was a better player, but I just really enjoyed him.
Yeah, I liked him too. I thought, like I said, I thought he had a very endearing personality. I would sit there and chat with him all day long.
Oh, yeah.
I really liked him.
Yeah, he comes, so again, in his intro package, he says, I'm compelling, charismatic, and I will win you over. And I always kind of roll my eyes when people say things like that. But in this case, I think he might be right.
He did.
Right.
He did.
So I like him. Like I said, I just wish he was better at the game.
Right.
Next person we have is Lorraine. Okay, she starts by saying she's hyperactive, which we can see. She's bisexual. She keeps saying things, I know I'm beautiful, I'm hot. She's right, she is. But I don't know if we really saw a lot of it after that intro package.
No, really, after the intro package, she made some references here and there, but it wasn't the focus of what her character is developing into. But she is #stay wild, and I will do #stay wild because I am an old person. She said that only old people do this. Bitch, please. So
right. And now, is this a good time to discuss the fact that there are, at least so far, there are no older characters this season?
Yeah, I think Rob was the oldest one.
Yeah, and he's 34.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So Yeah, not a lot of hope for the old people in Brazil, I think.
The reason it really bothers me is because of all the shows. Again, this is the show that you can play even if you're older, even if you couldn't pass a medical for some of these other shows.
Right.
You can be, again, we've seen, from other countries that, we've had people with disabilities.
Yep.
I think that is amazing. And, that should be such a big part of it. And the US season also, so the UK, both seasons, we saw people of different ages, different abilities, different, and this is the same production company, right, that's making all of these. So I was really, really, looking forward to it. And then the UK, we have nobody. And Shuby did talk about that, I think, even on the show. I do really feel like there is room on the show for an older person who admits, again, play their real age, whatever. And I think you and I would play it differently because I am very maternal. I just tend to kind of mother everybody. My kids are all in their early 20s, and it's easy for me to just kind of fall into that. And yes, I understand the risk, right, that people might not want to play with me. But I'm hoping that in a situation like this where people are really stressed and don't know who they can talk to, that, maybe they feel like that grandma would, be somebody that they could talk to. And I'm still hoping that we will see somebody.
I think that in the Circle, you can get away with the maternal character more so than in Survivor or in Big Brother, because I think in the Circle, it becomes the person you might go to for advice, or you might want to bounce ideas off of. I also think that on any of them, the older person is usually Netta from BB Canada said one time on a podcast that her biggest regret in BB Can 5 was that she did not align from the beginning with Karen.
Interesting.
And she said, when you look at any of the reality shows, that older person is the most loyal to you.
Right.
And usually the hardest one to cut. But if you're playing for $1 million or $500,000, you're going to cut them. I was
going to say, and that's why they tend to get dragged to the end and not get any votes. But you know what? I'll take that. I just want to stay in the game. I'll worry about the end. I have my ideas, and I'll get there when I get there, I guess.
Right. So, but I thought that was very interesting that Netta was like, that was a huge mistake of hers, was not aligning with Karen and trusting that older person who is going to be the most loyal person there. They just are. We don't have that older person who people can be loyal to that can expect that loyalty back.
Right. That's interesting. That's interesting. And I also was just going to say that even just the format of the show can kind of prevent some of the problems. Because I feel like the problem with being the mom is that, you can annoy people very easily. Like if you look at what happened with Reem, on Survivor, people were putting their stuff to dry in a place where it wasn't going to dry. So she moved it. Right.
Yep.
Because that's what the mom does. And then the rest of the players are like, you're not my mom. Leave my stuff alone.
Leave my stuff alone.
Right. Whereas if you're in the Circle, you have fewer opportunities to do things like that.
True. You're not able to highlight your annoying OCD mothering side. Right. You can highlight more the compassionate side, I think, in the Circle.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So we spoke about Lorraine.
I didn't realize how much I touched my face until I was looking at this podcast.
My theory is that if you're home, right, and you washed your hands, you can touch your face. Yeah. I mean, I'm sure somebody in the chat's going to tell me I'm wrong, but that's my theory because I have discovered again just how much I touch my face, and so my focus right now is to not touch my face when I'm out in public.
You know what? Yeah. I'm a hand talker as it is. So it's like I'll be talking and I'll touch my face and I'll touch my shoulder or whatever. And I did not realize how much I do that until I was watching this. It's like I'm seeing myself doing that.
Okay, so we've seen the first 5. Now they have to set up their profiles. And they have to pick, their first picture, which I would argue, I mean, you feel free to disagree with me, but I think that the choice of the first profile pick is probably the most important choice you will make in the game.
Absolutely. 100%. And I think we'll see that as soon as we get past the characters and start talking about the show itself.
Right.
Yes. I'll leave it at that. Yes.
Right. So just quickly, just going through what they picked. Kel skips the doctor picks. Good for that. And he picks a shirtless one in a pool. That's fine. You know. So was him Lorraine, who I tend to call low. I guess I just thought, but other people call me that also. She said that her pick represents her. She is like, I think it was perfect.
I thought that was a great picture because she doesn't look modelly. It doesn't look photoshopped. It just looks like a very natural, fun-loving early 20s.
Yeah, and even just and the what she picked with the expression and everything. I mean, from what everything was, that is her. And you can see she's an attractive girl, and guys are flirting with her, but she doesn't lead with that.
Right.
She's leading with I'm fun, I'm approachable, and that's where you want to go with this.
I agree. Yeah. I agree. I thought it was a great choice for her.
So Rob, again, the picture he picks out for Julia. The only thing is, the problem I have is she's not smiling.
I didn't like the picture that he chose for her. I didn't think it looked inviting. It didn't make me go, hey, I think I really want to talk to that person. They look like they'd be fun, like they'd be a great conversation. She just looked too serious about things.
Right. And I feel like also if you do have a lot of tattoos, I mean, there are still stereotypes about that. So if you're going to be a heavily tatted person, maybe it's even more important to look approachable.
Right. And I think we saw that with Miranda in the US version. She looked very approachable in her pictures.
Right.
More tattoos.
For the first pick, don't go glamorous, go cute.
Yeah. I agree.
Now Duma does completely the opposite, right? His photo is very heavily filtered. Yep. It's pretty, it's interesting. And, you could argue that is who he is. Nobody reacts to the filters though, the way people did, like in some of the other versions.
Right.
Nobody a negative reaction to a heavily filtered photo. Again, this might just be, cultural differences. Right? We really can't tell. And when Marina was setting up her profile, so she's 25, but she said she's 22. Again, what's the point? You're still 25. Again, if you're 38 and you want to pretend to be younger, I get it. But you start having these conversations about, where were you on 9/11? Right? You have to keep doing the math about, okay, I'm 3 years older than I actually said I am.
Right.
It's unnecessary. Again, on a dating app, you want to knock off a few years. I get it. I don't approve it, but I get it. But in the circle, I mean, I guess for certain of these people, I guess it is a dating app, right? Maybe that's the answer. Because we still have a lot of people who still seem to think that people don't seem to understand the point of the game.
Right.
Part of it is, it's not a dating app. And we're also not playing Find the Catfish. And again, this might be something, again, you want to disagree with me on. Because it's happened again in the other seasons, and we're seeing it again here, that the whole point of it seems to be find the catfish and vote him out. That's not the game. The game is finding people that you like and you feel that you could trust. And we did see that actually in the UK. It doesn't always happen. There was somebody in the UK season 1 who did well, even though they were a catfish. And it wasn't that people didn't figure it out. People did start to figure it out. But I think we heard people say, like, they might not really even be who they say they're going to be, but I like them.
Well, even
that's the way that I approach the game. If I feel like I can trust you, then if it turns out you're really not who you said you were, it's fine. It's a game.
Right. But it happened. Think about it. Happened season 1, season 2 UK, and season 1 US. Right. Catfish was in the finals.
You're right. Right. So it can be done. But absolutely. Right. But a lot of people still do seem to be playing Find the Catfish. And again, that's another way that you are putting yourself under unnecessary pressure. I feel like playing with a catfish. Because when people do find out that you're a catfish, because again, you're right, there were people in the finals, but I feel like only with UK season 1 did people really know. Or not know, but have a much stronger feeling that they might really not be who they say they are.
Yes. I would say that. I think there were a lot of doubts in the US version on the catfish that was in the finals. Right. In the UK season 2, I think people were shocked. Absolutely shocked. He played that catfish role so well that that people were angry. In fact, he played it so well, they were angry.
Right.
So
And
I think there's a fine line.
And I should say this now also, is that there's nothing, if you're going to play as a catfish, there is a thing that if you play as a catfish and you do it well and you do it successfully, you are probably going to be wildly, wildly popular. Like, I would say that. So it's not that I don't like people who play as catfishes. It's not a moral objection.
Right.
It's just that I just don't think most people can do it very well.
That's true. That's true. I would have a difficult time catfishing. I think I would slip in and out of the role and would be caught.
Right.
I would be caught and then not trusted because of it.
Right. Right. And that's why I wouldn't want to, like I said, play around with my age or anything like that, just because, again, I don't want to have to think, because I'm sure people, we saw this again with other seasons, people are asking the older people about, various things in, recent history. And yeah. Okay. So that back to they're making their, I'm sorry, we're bouncing around everybody. So of course, also they all pretend to be single, right?
Yes.
Which I do understand. Now, Duma says that he's in an open relationship and that it's a conversation starter. And if that's true, I think he's probably right.
Right.
In an open relationship, he can still flirt with people.
Yep.
But other than that, yeah, all the other people who are in relationships are single, except we'll see later the one person who is single is going to claim to be in a relationship.
Right, exactly.
Right.
It's a mess.
Trying to think if there's any, just quickly, what they say in their profiles. Duma says, I'm an artist, I'm a femme gay, I'm full of life. That's a very good description of him. Akel likes Japanese food and astrology. Again, if those things are true, then they're the kinds of good things. Again, you want to have details, and this is the feel I think is related to what I was saying before, is that when you're catfishing, if you're going to do this, you really have to inhabit that character.
Oh, yeah.
Right. You have, like, the way an author creates a character in a book, you have to be able to do that. And so these details like this are helpful. And if they're true, all the better. Lo is a country girl, model wannabe, chatty princess, like you said, stay wild. And that's the thing. She admits that she's a model, or she wants to model. But again, maybe it's just the photo, the whole way she presents herself. She's not going to run into this model curse, which we are going to see pretty soon.
Right.
Marina being a singer. Rob says, fire turns scrap metal into art.
Yes.
I really like that.
I really like that quote.
I like him.
Because it applies to what he does, but it also applies to any type of art that does utilize metal. I just thought it was a great quote.
Yeah. He's somebody I really would like to get to know. He's a cool guy. Okay. So that's the first 5. They are in their apartments, and now we get wave 2. Okay. So the next person comes in is Gabriel, otherwise known as Gable. Again, so he's a video game content creator, and then he says he's a pro gamer. Could both be true. Gable is our nerd, right? You want to talk about the various prototypes that casting looks for. Gable is our nerd.
Yes, he is.
Right. But he is the one who does the opposite, and he claims to have a girlfriend, even though he doesn't.
Yep.
Maybe because he feels like it'll make him look more normal?
I think so. I think that was used to portray, I may be the nerd, but I'm still, personable, and people like me anyway, despite being a nerd, or because of being a nerd.
Right. Kim, you're freezing up on me. Oh, there you go. You're back.
I'm not a fan of them at all.
I'm sorry. Okay, now you're.
Oh, I froze?
Yeah, you froze for a few seconds, a few times.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, it's not your fault.
I'm still frozen?
No, you're fine now, but I'm just saying it happened a few times. So the other thing with Gable is that he talked about being strategic. He didn't say what that meant, but at least he's the first person who said it. So I give him a little bit of credit for that. He says he's willing to stab people in the back, which is the kind of thing I always like to hear, on people in a show. I just hope it's true. Next person is Anna Carla. Now, did you have this issue when I watched it? Initially, I don't think we got Anna Carla's name. Or is that just me? Was I just?
No, they said Anna Carla.
They did. Oh, but I mean, they did it at the end. Okay. So it's
Yeah.
Anna Carla. So again, she's a Northeasterner, whatever that means. She's bullied for her accent. So clearly there is a negative stereotype for people from the Northeast, but that's all I know.
I need to look that up while you're doing the description. I'm going to find out what a Northeasterner in Brazil is.
I actually have a friend from Brazil who might actually be watching. Hi, Anna, if you're there, different Anna. And I do want to talk to her about some of these things because they do become relevant. So she's a DJ and a beauty queen. She's more than just a pretty face. She says she has experience in popularity competitions, right?
Right.
That could be true in a sense if she's good at, kind of answering those beauty queen questions and being diplomatic and saying nothing. That could be popular. And she said she can't pretend to be anybody else. Okay. Next we get, which is, to me is a lack of imagination, but let's put it aside.
Right.
Next we get Paloma, who's 26. I'm not sure if we got what she does for a living. She's a trucker gay, as she pronounced it. She says that she's been in 2 relationships at once, and that might come in handy on the circle. I mean, she's right. She can keep straight what she says to different people. That's probably true of every show, though, right? If you have to be able to keep your lies straight to different people.
Yeah, I think so.
Right. Could be helpful. But she is playing as Lucas, a straight white man, age 25, with a man bun. And she says a heterosexual white male with straight hair is automatically the most popular. What do you think?
I don't necessarily agree with that because I think they become the most stereotypical. That people see the straight younger white guy, longer hair, straight hair, pearly whites and all that. And a few of them even said it, beach bum. That's you don't think, hey, I'll bet he's the really smart guy. Or you don't think, the first thing they're going to think is athletic, that he's a bro, and that he's a beach bum. Right. And that's all there is to it. That becomes, and I don't know that any of those are a plus in a game where you're not actually getting to know the person.
Right. And he also says things like, I did research into male behavior. I have pickup lines. Not so sure how much that's going. Again, that'll help you for 30 seconds. But then when you if you can't kind of peel some of that off and, using pickup lines is kind of the opposite of what you should be doing in the circle. Okay,
so I'm going to take a little geographic tour here. Yes. Okay, so here's Brazil, right? Northeast is this weird, this side, this weird peninsula kind of thing that comes out. That's the Northeasters.
Right.
So it's definitely beachy territory. It's not inland. It has a lot of cities I've never heard of in Brazil. I mean, I know São Paulo and Rio and Brasilia, but not the cities that are there. Doesn't seem to be any big cities either. So when they're talking about being small town, it kind of reminds me of like on Big Brother Canada, when there was this bonding of the people that were like from Halifax, because it doesn't have a big population compared to a lot of the rest of the country. So I think that's a bonding thing for them when they're looking at it and going, oh, it's a Northeaster.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that's true in general, because anything that allows you to bond with other people is a plus. But there seems like with the Northeasterners, it's not just, oh, this is where we live. And it's not even normally people that kind of like, yeah, this is my city. It seems they all seem to be kind of assuming that, we're kind of like not so popular. There are negative stereotypes about them. I don't know what those negative stereotypes are.
I don't know, but they in a couple of the episodes, they referred to the accents. So I'm wondering if it's like New York and Boston, where the rest of the United States doesn't necessarily bond with New Yorkers. And as when I lived in New York, as they were affectionately referred to as massholes, the people in Boston. So when you've got, that's a stereotype. When they were talking about accents and the Northeasterners, that's a stereotype. So I have the feeling it might be kind of that same type thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Right. Okay. So next person is JP. Another Northeasterner. He's a military firefighter, which is somebody who should be really interesting, but he's just not.
No. He's pretty to look at.
Oh, yeah. And seems like a nice enough guy. I mean, he gets into with people a little bit, but basically nice enough guy, very nice to look at. He's a hero, and he kind of bores me.
Yeah, the cougar side of me is going, yeah, he's pretty. But the oh my God, I've got to have another mind-numbing conversation where I've got to carry the conversation with this person.
Right.
That's kind of what I felt like I was seeing with him.
He also says, and I'm assuming the fact that we're seeing this means it might come up later. He says he loses his temper very easily, and his nickname is Joe. So maybe he'll become less boring, but not in a great way.
He might be one of those that's going to blow up at somebody at some point, because I don't think they would have just thrown that in when it does not match the character we've seen so far. Right.
And we still haven't seen that side of him, but we're only 1/3 of the way through. But like I said, I almost welcome it, because at least he would be doing something. He's very pretty. He's definitely very, very pretty.
Oh, he's pretty. Oh, he's pretty.
Yes, he's very pretty. So maybe make the profiles. Okay, so Anna Carla picks a picture. What do you think about this pick?
I would have, the photographer in me was not impressed with that picture at all. Not at all. In fact,
it's very striking. It gets your attention.
Let me take a look. Okay, number one, because I would never look at those eyes and go, they're real. I'm looking at it going Photoshop. If you Photoshop the eyes, you probably Photoshop the rest of the picture. Is that really you, or are you faking something?
Well, just in general, I think the concern also is when you're that perfect, right? That then people will immediately figure that you're a catfish, and that is in fact what happens.
Yep. And I think you need to let people see some flaws in those initial pictures. And there are no flaws in that picture. It was so heavily Photoshopped. And I would have looked at that going, no.
And even if you are very attractive, again, we see with Lo, right? You can be very attractive and not try to hide that, but still pick a very different picture. I wouldn't have a problem if she posted this picture later. After you don't tell people initially that you're a model, you don't want to lead with that. But later on, when they add more pictures, and especially if you've already told people you model and you want to put that up, you're like, oh, wow, that's a person I don't even really know, but you clean up well. I hate that less than I hate it putting it up initially. Yeah.
There were a lot of things that she could have said about herself in her bio that would justify that picture. If she said that she was a pageant princess, she was.
She did say that. She said she's Miss whatever.
Right, but did she put that in her bio?
Yeah, she says that she's a model, and she talks about the pageants.
Okay. Well, I know they did it in the clips, but in the actual bio that they typed up?
Again, I can't really tell because I can't read Portuguese, right? Normally when I'm watching the other seasons, I'm always pausing to actually read what's on the screen.
Yeah, I don't think she told them that she was a model and that she was a pageant queen and things like that. I know she said she was an influencer, a social media influencer, but that doesn't necessarily make her a queen. And she, it was not a good lead. It was very intimidating, I think, to other people, especially when you look at someone like Marina, who I don't think was intimidated by it, but automatically went, yeah, no, that's not for real.
Right.
That's not the real thing.
And if you remember Karen's reaction to Alana in the US, no.
Exactly.
And again, if she bothered to watch the first episode of almost any of these, you would see reactions like this. But clearly, look, they found her on IG. She's never seen an episode, right? She feels like this is what makes her popular, and it's the absolute opposite of what she should be doing.
Absolutely.
Because I don't think that she's necessarily particularly unlikable. right? It's just that the initial,
Yeah.
I'm not saying she's extremely likable, but I don't think she did anything to really alienate people.
No, but that picture was her not approachable.
Right, that's what I'm saying. It's that by setting up this profile before she ever talked to anybody, right, she's already digging herself a hole.
Absolutely.
Excuse me, I'm going to try to move the cat who is sitting on my notes.
Oh, kitty, kitty, kitty.
Yeah, kitty. Okay. Oh, then Gable. And Gable talks about and I know we have to keep moving because we don't want to be here for 6 hours. Gable understands the power of a first impression, and he picks a photo that makes him look like a crazy person. What else? But Gable does lead into the nerd archetype, right? He says, I like anything that allows me to stay at home. Physical activity is not my thing, #nerd. So at least he has the self-awareness. He just doesn't know what to do with it.
Okay. Does it look like he's wearing a wig?
It's funny. I mean, it's a bad haircut. It's a really bad haircut.
I mean, I think of Nick on last season of Big Brother that looked like Mo with his haircut. Same type thing here. I'm going, you've got this full head of hair, and why are you making it look like a 65-year-old lady's wig? Yeah.
I mean, if he does have a medical condition and he's wearing a wig, then obviously I apologize. But if he paid somebody to cut his hair that way, then that person should be licensed.
I don't think it's a wig. That's the whole thing, because we saw different things where he was pulling his hair back, and you can see the roots and everything. So that's not a wig going on. But he's got this gorgeous, thick, full head of hair that's wavy, and I'm guessing probably curly.
Right.
If he would do either make it longer or make it shorter, but where it's at.
Right. And it's not even Big Brother where maybe somebody could give him a haircut and help him, right? It's not going to happen.
No, but we need a Gable makeover.
Yes, badly. So we get alerta, right? Which is, the alert that we always get on the circle. Something else is going to happen. And they do the first ratings, right, based just on the profiles. They always do this. Now, to be fair, Anna Carla, this has immediately regrets her photo. She says, they think I'm a catfish. Maybe the bio, it's a combination of the bio and the photo, but for whatever reason, she doesn't, I don't know what happened in between, but at least she is now questioning that choice. Lorraine doesn't think she's fake, but she says the beauty title was unnecessary.
Right.
And that's why I do think that it was in the bio, because
I agree. I forgot about that, but yeah.
Yeah. Duma, again, who is just a soundbite machine, JP describes JP as saying, one could say that he's a porn star dressed as a firefighter.
Yes. And I 100% agree. The only thing that he was missing was shirtless with suspenders and firefighter pants.
Well, we might get that.
And we might get that.
Right.
You never know.
Yeah, but with his photo, I like the photo. The photo was fine because it wasn't that.
Yeah.
Like, he looks really approachable.
And yeah, you know what? And it was obviously, as opposed to a posed studio type photo, it was obviously a selfie because there's the arm. So I like that. Right.
And I think it's the same thing you're saying, that, I don't want to say you can never use a studio photo, but the more natural it looks and the less posed it looks, the better off you are.
Exactly. It makes you less imposing. It makes you a real person. So if you're a catfish, I'd be looking for a character who's got some selfies out there that I can use. Right.
Although they do seem to be using people whose photos, they know the people that they're catfishing as. So far.
Yeah, for this group so far. Yeah, they are.
So that is a big plus, because then at least you can say to them, hey, I want you to take a picture doing this and that and whatever.
Right.
So I'm skipping a lot here because I'm realizing how long we would be, but just picking up a few things that I think we should talk about. Lo is immediately onto Akel. She says doctors normally don't believe in astrology. She's absolutely right.
Mm-hmm. And she made a great point with that to herself, obviously.
She's very young, but that made me think, okay, this girl is thinking.
Yeah. The only thing I would say is that he's not portraying himself as like a medical doctor as much as a nutritionalist.
I think he said well, again, in America, a dietitian isn't a doctor, right? It's a specialty, but it's a separate program. He said that he's a doctor, but he's also a dietitian. And maybe doctors can specialize in nutrition, but I think that's how he's portraying himself. Again, if he hadn't done that, if he was just saying, I'm a dietitian and didn't know, because again, he has pictures with the white coat and the stethoscope. He hasn't posted any of them yet, but we see that he has them. So yeah, he's not just holding himself as having, this degree that he doesn't have, but he's really doubling down on it by saying, I'm a doctor.
Right.
But then you shouldn't believe in astrology. I mean, he's right. Most doctors are pretty rational. They're not into stuff like that.
Oh, please. They don't even believe in chiropractors half the time, let alone astrology. It's like, oh, he's a back popper,
Yeah. I also love this. Marina says he calls Julia a cougar.
Yeah.
How old do you think Julia is? I would say like 30, 35.
I would put her probably about 30. Yeah, probably about 35.
Right. But is that a cougar? I mean, maybe for these people.
She's going after a 20-year-old. Yeah.
Right. But I guess when I think of a cougar, I think about somebody who's normally short. Just that these people, like I said, she's an old person, right? By using that term, that tells me that she thinks that Julia is an old person, but she's really not that much older than she is, like less than 10 years. So that was weird.
It's a generational difference.
Right. Okay. So they do their first ratings. And again, going to skip all that. Then they do circle chat where they can talk until the results come out. So I thought that Gable and Marina were going to bond over video games, right? Because she plays and Gable, that's what he does for a living, right?
Right.
But neither of them picked up on it. Now, Marina said something about it later, right? That he didn't approach her about that. Right. And that's a fail. But why did she not do the same thing? Maybe she feels like she has enough other allies.
Maybe she does, but personally, I think there's no such thing as too many allies, especially in the circle.
I'm just going to make an apology for her because she's saying he didn't approach me. We have a shared interest in video games, and he didn't talk to me about it. Yeah, that's true, girl. Why didn't you talk to him? Right.
Here's the thing, and I think some of these younger players kind of forget this. People like to talk about themselves, and therefore, if she had asked him questions about gaming, the gaming industry, or what it's like to be a professional gamer, I think she would have realized a couple of things. With the first one being, it takes strategy to play those games. Mm-hmm. Okay, the video games, you do have to be a strategist. And you're okay with putting a knife in somebody's back because they're going to come back to life later on anyway. So it doesn't really matter. But I think it would have opened up a lot of windows and closed a couple doors if she had bothered to ask him questions. If you notice, very few of them actually asked about the other. They talked a lot about themselves.
Right.
But
again, if you ever read, how to win friends and influence people, basically, if you want to boil that down into one sentence, is people like to talk about themselves.
Exactly.
The best way to make somebody like you is just sit there and keep lobbing questions at them. And you're right, and nobody really did this.
Nope, not one of them. And I think that may be because it's a younger cast.
Yeah, right.
And rather than showing the interest in other people, they're displaying their own attributes. And I think one that asked the most questions was Julia.
Right. And it's possible that when you are an influencer and you spend your life on social media, it's all about me.
Yeah.
And so even though you're going into a game where all of the skills that you have of being an influencer obviously are going to come into play.
Right.
It's still a different situation. Right. You're trying, and again, same thing. You're trying to get people to like you, but I guess the relationships are different, whatever. I feel like it's a big fail that nobody really seemed to do any of that. Because if Gable had even one real ally, right, if he had bonded with Marina over the video games, then he can go and tell other people, hey, he's okay. He's actually really smart. He's good at what he does. I like him.
Exactly.
He never got that foothold.
Nope.
I mean,
Not
he's
at
still
all.
in the game, but I don't have a lot of hope for him.
I don't either. To be honest with you, I don't think he's going to go very deep in it unless he finds some inroads with some of these other people. He needs to find some commonalities. And as the nerd, and you're on there with either actual social influencers, the pretty people, or perceived social influencers and pretty people, to come in and be yourself and be the nerd is tough. It's going to be really tough.
But it can be very successful. I mean, look at Shuby.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, but Shuby wasn't necessarily a geek. He was just Shuby. That's all. He was just Shuby.
But again, when you compare him to the rest of his cast, right,
Oh, yeah.
it looked like he's going to have a lot in common with him. And initially, I think same thing, first ratings, I think he might have come in last, right?
The very first one, he came in last.
But then somehow he was able to get a foothold.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And I think we'll see that with Gable too.
Well, let's hope so. Let's hope so.
I'm still I don't talk with them.
Right. Okay, so they're just waiting for the ratings. Okay, then the first individual chat we see is JP chats with Anna Carla. Big surprise, no, right? They flirt. Now he asks this question that could be very innocuous, but I'm wondering if it really was. He says, "Where do you go? Where do you stay when you go to Recife? It's a place, right?
Right.
It's a great way to make conversation, unless the other person's a catfish."
Correct.
And so again, is he smart enough that is he fishing to see if this person really is say that
on that?
You think he's that smart? Is JP that smart?
I don't know if he's that smart or if he was trying to find that common ground with them both being Northeasterners.
Right.
But what I thought was really funny was that Anna was like, "I don't like thirsty people."
Right.
She said that more than one. I don't like thirsty people. And yet they were both in they had a huge flirt romance going on right there, like within minutes.
Right. Right.
So
yeah,
one of them.
In the first conversation, again, there's editing, but the way it's presented to us is that first conversation, and they're talking about they want to get to know each other after the game.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. And I don't know if it was one or the other trying to fish out information to see if it was a catfish or not.
Right.
I don't think so. I don't think either one of them was all that. Well, she's smart. She speaks 4 languages. She is smart.
Right.
But I don't think either one of them was smart enough in the social setting to do that.
Yeah. No, I just think that they were hot people who live from the same part of the country, and they found somebody to bond with.
They were thirsty.
And so what do you think? So far, I would say that the flirting is less egregious than it was in the Circle US, but it's still much more than the UK. Because that was the one thing with the Circle US was just, sometimes I just couldn't, because it felt like, at least in the beginning, it felt like it was just a dating show. This is a little bit better, but there's still, to me, way too much. And I understand it's a way to bond with people, but I'm just going to start, I'm like, oh God, not this again.
Yeah.
But for these two, you cast these two, this is what you're expecting them to do.
Right. Right.
Yeah. Then they do, Cal does a chat with Duma, Lorraine, Marina, and JP. And he kind of picks these people out that these are the party people, right? He's looking for all these people who looked in their bios. And again, you want to talk about being an older person who's playing, right? That these people, obviously they're young, they all go to Carnival. Then Lola says something. So Duma says something about girlfriend, or Lola says something about girlfriends, and then Duma asks, "What does that mean?" Like he's fishing to see if there's any other LGBTQ people around here, and she says, "I like salad. I also like sausage."
Right.
Again, something that was very, very common in the U.S. that they cast a very high number of bisexual people. When you think about it, that's probably the way. Again, if you are going to catfish, that's probably a good thing in this game, right? Because it allows you to flirt. Well, it's a good thing, right? In the sense that you could flirt with everybody. Doesn't necessarily make for good TV, but it's good for you. Then they did
but that's kind of a Brazilian thing. They're also much more of a freeing society, whereas where in the US more people are a little more closed in and overall I would say more conservative. In Brazil, I mean, Carnival is everything everywhere. And
I learned that from this, because obviously I've heard of Carnival and I have seen pictures and everything, but I didn't realize just like, I guess everybody gets dressed up in these crazy outfits. That's Carnival.
Oh yeah. I mean, it makes Carnival down in Brazil, especially in Rio, makes Mardi Gras look like a nun's convention. Okay, because they are out there, they're free flowing everything everywhere for everybody. It's not a question of, here, I think I'll flash and you can throw me beads. Oh no, this is a way of life for a month that they do this. And even the beaches are, you know, it was a big deal when US got some nude beaches. Hello, Brazil. I don't know that they ever had any that were not nude beaches. It's just a very, very different society.
Right.
As far as their sexuality and what they put out there for other people to observe.
Right.
And we're seeing a lot of that in this show.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like I said, if anything, I'm more surprised with it, like I said, with the US version, that was all it was. In Brazil, like I guess it would be more understandable.
Yeah.
So then they do an icebreaker, and again, some of these might become relevant. So they start with, do you know how to dance quadrifino? Again, some dance, I don't know how to dance. They all say that they do, except Ana Carla, which makes, okay. This is an important one. Have you ever revealed someone else's secret? Now, to me, this would be a really good time to lie.
Oh, the answer is no.
Right. Even though
absolutely, the answer is no.
In real life, I think it's pretty unusual to have somebody who's never actually done it. But you just say no.
Right.
Raquel does this whole thing about, I want to be honest. Raquel, the 30-year-old doctor, right, wants to be honest about whether he's ever betrayed a secret. They're talking about, have you ever sent nudes? Oh, Gaylor, you're talking about cultural differences. Gaylor, the nerd, says anybody who says that they have never sent nudes is lying. Again,
right.
Maybe it's a generational thing. I mean, I know it's very common, but like literally somebody as nerdy as that saying you're all lying. You've all done it.
Yeah.
But again, but Duma actually, but I could be wrong about this, because Duma says that Raquel feels more real because he admitted to it, right? So who knows? So just watching. Raquel clearly has extensive notes about the game, right? He immediately sees that Duma is a strong player. He reaches out to him. They bond. Duma asks why Anna and Julia weren't included. And Raquel says he likes both of them, right? Especially Anna, but he thinks she's a catfish. Again, who knows? But again, in terms of being a catfish, even being perceived to be a catfish, you lose opportunities to bond with people.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Duma also, this is the moment where I realized how smart Duma is, because I didn't initially realize that. He says the catfish would want to avoid attracting attention. He says that Ana Carla would not have used a photo like that if she were a catfish. I just found that interesting. Again, may or may clearly isn't always true, but it's an interesting perspective. I think I lost Kim again. Kim, you still there? Okay, I'm sorry. For those who haven't figured this out, this is my first time hosting, and so I am trying to figure out how I can message Kim and tell her that she is frozen. Here we go. Okay, so I'm going to talk for a minute and hope that she's going to come back. Anyway, so Raquel and Duma decide that they are going to share information. Again, that's a positive thing. Then we get the rating results. Anna Carla is not, so they count down from lowest to highest. They always do this. So Anna Carla is number 9. She's very upset. And she says how, people always judge her for her looks, which again, for somebody who looks like me, I have a little bit of a problem being too sympathetic, but I understand it's a thing, right? And it's hard to get to know people when they just think you're perfect, because as we talked about before, perfect people are hard to get to know. Right? You have to show some vulnerability. JP comes in 8th, which surprised me. Marina says she thinks it's a woman. So it might be the same thing, that people are suspicious, that they think that, he's too perfect. He must be a catfish. Gable comes in 7th. He sees this. He knows it's a problem. He says he has to talk more and bond with people. And again, we can't really tell how much people are talking, but if you aren't saying that much in other chats where people are talking, talk more. I would probably have to talk less. Gable needs to talk more. Lucas is in 6th. Julia is 5. Akel is 4. And again, he says this is perfect. He's a good player, right? Because he understands that standing out and constantly being an influencer is not necessarily the best thing for your game in the long run. Lorraine comes in 3rd. Sorry, Marina is 2nd, and Duma is number 1. And we get to see the blue check marks, right? That these are our influencers. Lucas says something interesting. He says Marina and Duma are twins. They have the same vibe. I didn't really pick up on that, but if they're showing it to us, there's probably some truth to it. So Marina and Duma get together in the blue room. Lucas, they said he has bad communication skills. Again, something we didn't really see, but I have to take them. We have to take what they say as face value because they're there and I'm not. Duma doesn't trust Gable because he declared himself as a player. If you're doing that in front of other people, probably not the smartest thing he's ever done. With Anna Carla, Duma says that there's just not a lot of depth. Marina says he's adorable, but she's also too perfect. And with Julia, Marina just says she's hitting on everybody. She's tired of the anti thing, etc., etc. So while they're discussing, we get to see the at-risk chat. Anna is upset. Gable is nervous. Anna's, like I said, upset that people are judging her of her books. And that is the end of the episode. Oh, here she is. Kim is back. Hi. Sorry, it took me a minute.
I was sending you messages, and I'm like, oh my God, she's not seeing the messages. I'm back on my phone.
I sent you a message saying Kim, you're frozen. Where did you send me a message? On Twitter?
On Twitter.
Okay, I was doing it on the chat. Whatever.
Oh.
Okay.
No,
if we need to communicate, we'll go on Twitter. That's fine. I just didn't say anything about it. Yeah. I didn't say anything. I don't think that we really have to repeat. We just got to the end of episode 1. Okay.
I have no idea what happened. Literally, my computer, like we were talking and all of a sudden, boom, gone.
Mm-hmm. That's what happened. And I am not a tech person. I'm the kind of person who I know enough that, when something starts doing something weird, you just, unplug it and plug it back in. That's the limit of my knowledge. So everybody, please bear with me. It's the first time I've ever done this. So we come back for episode 2, and the person who is blocked, not surprisingly, is Anna Carla. Okay. What did you think of the choice?
I thought it was a reasonable choice. I felt like they had a reason to block her, where there's other people on there that they really did not have a reason to block.
Right.
And totally based on first impressions.
Well, that's what it is. I mean, the fact that they make them rate them where they've had no interaction. Again, I understand the point of it because people do judge each other based on just the profile. So they want to do that. But it is hard. Again, I don't want to really criticize Anna Carla's gameplay too much because she didn't really get to play. But yeah, I do think that picture and that bio were a mistake.
No, I'm okay with criticizing her gameplay in a game where you know, if you've watched any of it, you know that first round is going to be based on first impressions.
Right.
And if your first impression is a photoshopped picture, a pageant picture or an Instagram picture, or whatever it is, but it was obviously a Photoshop studio picture, that is what they will judge you on, period.
No.
And it's never, ever going to be a good first impression. Either they think that you're not real as a person or that you're a catfish.
The only thing I would say to push back with you is that Duma's picture was much more filtered, et cetera, and it didn't seem to bother them.
No, but I think that's because it wasn't an egotistical, I don't know how to put it. Okay, so hers was more of a the picture that you're going to find in the brochure that you get for the pageant when they hand out the booklets with the bios of all the pageant participants. That's what her picture was. The only thing she was missing was a crown and a sash, and she had some of those too. But whereas his, even though it was definitely photoshopped, it was definitely a studio picture, it was kind of this fun-loving person. So it wasn't a pushback right from the start, whereas hers was, and she, she cried because, see, this happens all the time. People judge me. If that's what you're putting out there, then yes, you will be judged.
Right.
Sorry.
No, you're absolutely right. I think that just, again, to really put a fine point on it, the problem is not Photoshop or a studio pic, because those can both be fine. We've seen it. We've seen it other times. It's about how you portray yourself, right? She's portraying herself as perfect, right? And look, and I'm a beauty queen. Duma is like, I'm an interesting arty guy, and here's an interesting arty pic. And so it doesn't matter at that point, how filtered it is. I think that's really the issue. But you're right. Generally, when we're talking about somebody with Photoshop and filters, it means, they're trying to make themselves look perfect. And again, if you ever you want to be successful on Insta, I guess, you want to be perfect. You want to be successful in the circle, you have to start showing vulnerability. And I would argue you got to start doing it almost from the beginning, because if you don't, you may not have another chance. Exactly.
And, and I think that was her biggest mistake right there. Was who wants to live up to be friends with the perfect person, and when you're not presenting any flaws, I'm sorry, there's got to be a pimple or a wart in there somewhere where you where you can at least go, oh, okay, that's the person I would hang out with,
right? And I would argue, actually, now that I think about it, even with on social media, you can obviously be very popular by being perfect, but I'm thinking about like Chrissy Teigen, who is obviously gorgeous, but why is she so popular on Twitter? Because she's real, Because she's real. On her butt, we will know about it.
Yep, I agree.
Okay.
And let's see. Yeah. So she got blocked at the end of episode 1.
Right. And this is, I think, my favorite part of the show is when they get blocked, they get to meet one person,
Yes.
As themselves.
I was shocked. I thought she was going to go to JP.
Yes. Yeah.
I thought she was going to prove herself to be the person that he saw as being represented and that he liked.
Yeah, he definitely wanted to meet her. And, so again, I don't know in the game how serious she was about, being into him. Maybe that was just acting, or she's enough of a gamer that she wants to go to jail.
Yep.
And, but again, she wanted to just show him, I'm not a catfish. Again, maybe if she understood the game, she would understand it. By tomorrow morning, everybody will get to see who you are. But it is always fun when they walk in and you have, and then they hugged and they talked about it and they discussed the photo. Duma talks about it. And she says, all my photos are like that. Well, that's your problem right there.
Yep.
Says exactly. A photo on the beach would have saved you. So that tells me there really isn't anything else about her. It's just that photo. And even somebody, like I said, who knows how to use a filter, didn't react to it.
It's like, where's the substance?
Right. Yeah.
It's like she showed the sizzle. We wanted the steak.
Right. Right. And
That's how I would be.
if we will use that picture in the third picture, I think we should have been fine. But you don't do it with number one. Okay, that's the end of day 2. They all go to bed. Akel tries to flirt with the circle before he goes to sleep. The circle doesn't really seem to respond. So day 3, JP has a new strategy: hunt down the leaders.
Yep.
What do you think about that? Should you go after the influencers?
I would want that information for myself. It's not necessarily something I'd put out this early. Okay, because knowledge is power in any game. I don't care if it's Survivor, Big Brother. The knowledge itself is more important than sharing the knowledge with everybody and their brother.
Right. So you're saying the strategy is good, just don't tell anybody what you're doing.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think he needed to be more subtle about it.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think
not in his,
he was, yeah, he was definitely in your face with stuff. You know, something like the all guys chat. Oh, okay. So they start, you know, they're going to bro down. They have the all guys chat. They're talking about soccer. And by doing that, I mean, they already knew that Dumas was definitely a more flamboyant gay person. They knew that from the picture.
Right.
And so you're going to have an all guys chat where you're alienating one person because of the subject matter.
Yeah. Duma soundbite again. Are you calling a gay guy bro? What are your manners is his reaction. But yeah, right. You're right. You invite him. Yes, you know, he's a guy, but he's probably not going to be able to bond with them over sports, etc.
Right. You don't alienate him and not invite him, because then if he hears there's a bro chat and he wasn't invited to the all guys chat, now you're really fucked. If you're inviting him though, you need to have subject matters that are more inclusive than sports. Or you ask the question, does everybody here like sports? No, I'm not a big sports fan. Okay, no problem. Do you like the cheerleaders at sports? Because he came right out and he said, I'd be more on the team of cheerleaders. You know, it's like, come on.
Right.
And I think one of the funniest things he said, though, was when he was talking about balls. He was like, he goes, well, I can't even remember the exact quote, but essentially.
I thought I wrote it down, but yeah. Something like, you know, that whatever, you know, he has a lot of experience with balls, but not that kind.
Right, but not that kind. Exactly. Right. And then, boom, left the chat.
Right. Now, what do you think? I do question that. I understand it was a difficult situation for him. And again, this is kind of his brand, right? Radical honest. He doesn't use those words, but that's almost kind of what he's trying to do. He's not happy. He don't want to be there. He leaves.
But here's the thing. You can do one of two things. You can leave the chat and guess what? They're all going to talk about you, which guess what? That's exactly what they did. Or you stay in the chat and you change the subject.
Right.
Talk about food. There's nobody there that doesn't like food. You know, bring up your favorite restaurant, your favorite cut of steak. It doesn't matter.
So you're saying most of this obviously falls on the other guys, but a little bit falls on him because, again, for somebody who does seem like he was going to be good at this game, you just redirect the conversation. It's a good call.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But
throwing a tantrum and leaving to me is just never going to be the answer.
No, that's communication 101. If it's not a subject that you know anything about, that you can give any input in, that you don't have an opinion about, then redirect the subject.
Right.
Very simple. Very simple.
Right. And I understand how big sports is in a lot of people's lives. Again, I mean, I can enjoy it, but I'm not a huge sports fan. But they're, like you said, there's so many other things that they must have in common, and nobody really looked for.
Exactly.
He's still a guy, right? He still grew up as a man in Brazil. They should have certain things in common.
Well, like I said, food is always going to be a commonality. Music,
Mhm.
is always going, it may not be the same genre of music,
Music,
but
yeah.
music will be something that they will have in common. There's just a lot of things that
Talk about your
could have been brought
families.
up.
Right.
And I would just say, like, if I were going into Big Brother, if I were going into Survivor, if I were going into the Circle, I would be Googling lists of subjects to start a conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And I would know those inside and out so that it didn't matter who I was talking to. I've got conversation starters.
But like you said, the safest thing is you could learn a whole area, but just like you said, pick something that you already know.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying study on different things you don't know.
Ready.
Give me a list of subjects. Don't bring up religion.
Right.
Don't bring up politics.
Right.
And mention sports, but if it's not a buy-in from everybody, move on to the next thing on your list. Like I said, food, TV shows, restaurants, favorite thing to do on the weekend. What do you guys like to do on the weekend? But here's the problem. Again, this goes back. They didn't ask questions of each other. It's like, what do you like to do? Do you like to hike? Do you like to watch TV? Do you like to take naps?
Right.
Do you prefer to take a nap on your bed, on the couch, or on the floor? There's so many things that could have been done that weren't.
Now, is this could this be an age thing? Because I'm just thinking all the times I have had to go to a cocktail party for work or whatever, and you just get thrown into a room with a bunch of people you don't know. And like you said, you just have these safe topics of conversation. You're saying these people just don't have enough life experience that they've ever really needed that?
You know what? I think it's a combination of things. I think it's a combination of life experience. So they don't have this history of subjects that they've talked to other people about. They don't have this history of maybe travel. They might have made one big family vacation to London, but when you're 50, 55, 60 years old and have had the opportunities, now you've got this whole wider range of things to bring up. I think the other thing, and I don't like to stereotype, but you got a gamer in there.
Mm-hmm.
I think we've seen a lot of decline in socialization and conversation. Mm-hmm. And the thing that's really surprising me on the Brazil episodes here is their lack of use of emojis.
Yeah, and also the hashtags. Because that was very, very heavily used in all the others.
It's heavily used on Twitter. Look at Fairplay's post about today's episode, right? And there was @ and hashtags all over the place, because that's what you do. They didn't.
Right.
They didn't so much.
Right. But again, they use, these people, they may not even use Twitter, but they use Instagram. They should understand how hashtags work.
They use Twitter and they use Facebook. I know a couple of Brazilians that
but the question is whether the lack of emojis is a cultural thing, or do they think that's a whole layer of a way that you can express yourself.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Look at what was her name? And Joey. Marina?
Miranda.
Not Miranda. Miranda.
Right.
Here on the US ones. That's a pretty obvious flirt sign when you're putting out eggplants.
Right.
Okay. This is like a different level of flirting.
Right.
This is letting you know what you want to have happen. Right. And I was just very, very surprised that they were not actually using them as a bonding mechanism.
Yeah, because bonding, or the other thing is just like I said, gives you another way to communicate. Because there's several emojis that I use all the time, just because I'm very sarcastic. I have a T-shirt that sarcasm is my superpower. So all the time I will say things that if somebody just sees the words, they might have kind of be taken aback. But then you throw in some of the kiss emoji and the wink emoji, and then suddenly it's clear. Oh, she's just being whatever. Right. And they're not
Right.
using
No, they're not. They're really not. Maybe we'll see that change, but we're 4 episodes in.
yeah,
I don't think we're going to see that change this season.
right. And I wonder,
At all.
again, maybe I should start freezing and looking at the screen, because even though I can't read the Portuguese, at least I would be able to see if they were using anything like that. But we're not really seeing any sign of it.
No.
I just feel like, again, they are losing opportunities to bond with people.
They're using the heart eyes and hearts, the heart eyes. There's been a couple of them, the laughing well practice. They're using the basics.
Right. I mean, come on, people. I am 54 years old. Okay. If I am using emojis better than the players are, there's something wrong.
That is, but it's true.
I admit, I tend to use the same 10 over and over, but that's 10 more than these people are using. And we
Exactly.
have we seen a real misunderstanding yet where people read the words and, can't tease out the meaning? It's going to happen. I'm just
Right.
not sure whether it's happened yet.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. In the next episode 3.
Okay. So we'll leave it for that. So the next thing is this astrology game. Now, this I was going to leave it. Do you know anything about astrology? Because I really don't.
I know that I'm a Sagittarius.
And I know I'm a
really,
Taurus, but in terms of
I don't know what the traits are of the signs. I don't know. I've had people try to explain it to me, and all I hear is wah, 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 because I'm not. I would be interested. I think maybe if I knew more about it, I might be interested in it. But I found it a lot of fun, though, that you were guessing their astrology signs. You've got a 1 out of 12 chance of being right.
They gave them choices. It was 1 out of 4.
Oh yeah. You have a 1 out of 4 shot at being right on any given one of them.
Right. Because I was thinking, I fake this if I had to. And I mean, I guess I could, obviously, it's just interesting. There are 9 people in the house. I didn't hear one person say, "Oh my gosh, I don't know anything about astrology." So, I mean, it's always a lot of people in the US are into it, but is it bigger in Brazil where you just kind of assume that everybody knows it?
Possibly. I mean, there were a few of them that mentioned it, mentioned either their star sign or their interest in astrology. You look at a cow, guess what? He put that right out there.
Right.
The astrology.
When they were playing the game, all 9 of them kind of jumped in, and I'm guessing about, and again, maybe some of them were faking, because that's what I would have done. Whatever somebody says, I'd be like, oh yeah, that's right. I agree with, whatever. And they just hope that they didn't be incredibly stupid. Because like you said, I know that I'm a Taurus, and that means I'm stubborn, and that fits, and I agree with that, and that's kind of all I know about astrology. So okay.
The only other thing that I kind of know, and this is 100% Audrey Middleton from Sequester, who is really into astrology. She loves readings and stuff like that.
Okay.
And so the one thing that I did walk away with on that is fire versus water signs. And they don't tend to mix real well.
Right.
And it's kind of Pisces or fish. That's going to be a water sign. Different things like that you can pick up on. I could carry on a conversation, but not a real intelligent one.
Right. So I'm glad it's not just me, because my question was like, is this a failing on my part? Like I said, I'm older. Is this what the kids are all talking about? And again, you're same age group, but I'm not sure that everybody is into it. Like I said, so maybe it's a Brazilian thing. Maybe they knew their cast. Maybe somebody was playing along. Who knows?
Could be.
The only thing you have to really take away from this whole game is that they're all flirting with each other, and Duma calls Julia an nymphomaniac, which, coming out of Duma, I thought is pretty funny.
Yes, exactly. Hello, you send nudes, multiple nudes. You send your entire portfolio of nudes to anybody who asks.
Right. But Julia's an nymphomaniac because she's flirting with everybody. Is the problem Duma hasn't found anybody to flirt with? Is that the problem? Are there any gay men in the house? Maybe that's the problem.
I don't think there are. I think all the men that are in the house are straight. I don't think any of them are even bi.
Right. That's what I was going to say. There are a couple of bisexual women, right? Julia is bi,
Yes.
right, and Lo is bi, but there aren't any bisexual men. Okay, so Doom is crazy.
And-
Doesn't have anybody to flirt with.
And Lucas is a female, is lesbian.
Right. Right. But I'm talking about the
Yeah.
characters, right? In terms of the cast,
Yeah.
and again, in terms of percentages, right, there's plenty of representation. But just for Doom, there might not be anybody for him to flirt with.
Yeah, and I'm actually kind of surprised that someone isn't catfishing as a gay man.
You mean a straight man pretending to be a gay man? Or the
Yep.
other way around?
No,
Why?
a straight man pretending to be a gay man.
Why do you think? Why do you think that would be a good way to play?
Or at least a bi man.
Mhm.
I think if they came into it as a bi, or pansexual,
Right.
then they've opened up the opportunity that they can flirt with the guys.
Oh, yeah.
They can flirt with the girls. They're more about loving the person as opposed to loving the gender.
Right.
So I think it would open up a lot more opportunities for them as a player to bond with other people.
If you're talking about bi or pan, you're absolutely right. Like I said, to me,
Right.
there's almost no downside of saying you're bi.
I personally, if I were like, I wouldn't come into the game as a straight female
Mhm.
and play a lesbian.
Mhm.
I wouldn't do that because I think there's enough representation out there that you don't need a straight woman to pretend to be a lesbian when you could actually have a lesbian on there.
Right. But I'm just talking about for your own game. Would there be any benefit? And again, I'm sure there are people telling me there's problems with doing this. I'm sure there are. But just if you're a gamer, you're going into a game, you are straight. We haven't seen this yet, but I'm saying I think it would be interesting, people pretending to be bi just because, as Woody Allen said, bisexuality has its problems, but it does double your chances to have a date on Saturday night.
Exactly. It doubles your chances for a Saturday night date.
Right.
I mean, if I were to be catfishing, I would actually catfish as a gay male.
Interesting.
If I were to pick one, I would totally be a gay male.
So you really would catfish as somebody who's very different from yourself.
Oh, I wouldn't catfish, but
If you'd were,
but if I were told you're going into the circle
Mhm.
and you have to have a character that is not you, you have to be a catfish. Number one, red flags. That means everyone's has to be a catfish. But if I was told I had to be a catfish in it, I would totally be a gay male for sure.
I have been told that is actually not what happens. Because I have worried again, people again in other seasons. I've wondered with some of these people again who really should have played as themselves, and I just kind of assumed the production told a certain number of people you're going to catfish. They claim that is not the case.
That's what I've been told.
In the audition process, they ask you who do you want to play as, but they don't look at you and say we like you, but we need a gay guy, so you're going to play as a gay guy.
Yeah, no, from what I understand, no, they don't influence how you're going to play the game. I'm just saying that if it were a season where everyone's a catfish,
that's what you would do.
I would totally be a gay guy. Totally. My best friend Jared is the most actually I've got a lot of gay friends, but that's beside the point.
I was going to say you could just play a friend.
Be a gay guy.
Play Brent Wolgamott. Like that I could see.
Oh yeah, without a doubt. I would totally
everybody in the 15 minutes.
I would take pieces of Brent and pieces of Jared and pieces of Francisco and pieces of Alex, my British gay friend, and who always says, Kim, if you ever come to the UK, we're going to get married just so that you can be my pretend wife. I mean, and these guys literally are all in their 20s and early 30s, which makes me like,
right.
I don't know. Anyway, so I would take these wonderful pieces of each of them and make the perfect gay man.
Interesting.
That would be my catfish.
I just don't feel I could pull it off. That's just me.
I probably could. I'd probably call them all Kitty just because of Brent Wolgamott, and and be like, Kitty. So whatever. The old woman could be the perfect gay guy, but it'd be pieces of all of them.
Yeah. Okay. So I was thinking about when you were talking about the Playmakers chat before with the guys and all the issues and whatever.
Right.
One thing that came up, which again I don't think has come up in any of the other versions, is the question about whether having a group that's gender-based is sexist. I mean, I don't have a problem with it. I think, again, you're looking for way that you can bond with people. If it wants to put me in an all-female chat, right, and allows me to talk to these women who are younger, whatever, I'm fine with it. But I think it was Doolittle who questioned it about what, and that's why I think he doesn't quit that group, I don't think completely, but he also goes and talks to the women. Just wanted to flag, I thought it was interesting.
I think it's more about commonalities than sexist.
Right. But again, if you are talking about the beginning of the game and you're trying to get to know people, I don't think there's anything wrong with picking a group that's based on gender.
No, not at all. I don't think so.
Okay. Then we have the dance party, and this is always fun. Again, this is something we have seen on other seasons. They tell them there's a box outside your door. They bring it in. They get a costume, and they're supposed to make a drink. Was it called Caparinha?
Yeah.
It sounds kind of like a mojito that you have to kind of muddle lime and, I don't even know what it is. But anyway, they're supposed to make the drink, put on the costume and dance. It's fun. And they play the music. They're happy to have music because, again, when you are in the circle, you do not have music. Again, this is something that we should probably bring up if you haven't seen this before. What do they do all day? Now, if you're familiar with Survivor, Big Brother, etc., there's a lot of boredom. There's a lot of just sitting around. I think on the circle, there's also a lot of boredom in sitting around, but for whatever reason, they are allowed, again, you obviously don't have internet access or anything like that, but you can bring in jigsaw puzzles and you can bring in coloring books and you can bring books, right? We've not seen one person in this cast actually read a book, which might be a problem. That might show you what we're dealing with. Because again, normally on Big Brother, you don't want watching somebody read a book is not interesting. Right? It doesn't make good TV. But they understand that most of the time they're just sitting around the apartment, so they find stuff to do, but they don't get music. So they all dance. It's very fun. We also learn from this that most of these people cannot dance. And then we have our new person coming in, Wonder Twins activate, and there are 2 of them.
Yep.
And that is the end of episode 2. Anything
Correct.
else to discuss going up to that point? And yes, we have to keep moving. I know. Yeah. So now we are okay. Let me boil this down even more. So we got Lucas and Marcel, who are identical twins, right? And they are going to be playing as Luma, right?
Right.
Lucas and Marcel are both gay. They play as a hot girl, but they say they are going to use Luca's heart and Marcel's mind. Same thing. If they're kind of using them as a skin, if they can pull this off, fine. They pick a picture that's not glamorous. They're in nature. They say that specifically. So again, they have some idea what they're going on. She's single. She's 27. She's an advertiser. She's joyful, chatty, stubborn, and indecisive. Again, this is a fully realized character.
Yep. Absolutely it is.
Yep. So that's fun. Luca gets an outfit too. They join the party. Then they do circle chat. And now again, they have the ability to post Carnival pics. Because again, they can't just post pics anytime when they want to, right? Obviously there has to be, everybody has to have the same numbers. So now they do things. Trying to think what else. Luma calls JP a man whore. And then Akel picks out this baby pic, rather than posting a carnival pic.
Right.
And that makes Lo think he's a catfish. Why? Just in Brazil, everybody has a carnival pic, and if you don't, you must be a catfish.
Everybody has a carnival.
Okay.
Yeah. Everybody.
Okay.
Every town.
Okay.
Doesn't matter. You don't have to travel off to Brasilia or to Sao Paulo or to Rio to have a Carnivale pick, because every teeny tiny town has Carnivale.
Okay, so sorry, we
what they
already
do.
spoke about that. They're all flirting, they're all talking. Lo flirts with Julia and calls her dude. This seems to be a thing, dude. And again, wonder, is this a Brazilian thing? Is this a word? Obviously, there's a word in Portuguese, right? Is it? But the fact that they translated as dude makes me think that it's, if the translator is good, this is kind of a verbal thing that she does. Generally, people don't refer to a woman as dude. She's calling everybody dude.
I don't know. Girls here do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So again, I'm old.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. That I'm trying to think. Oh, and then the other fun thing that happens, and I say fun in quotes, is that so Luma posts this Carnival pic. And then also, I'm sorry, Julia's pic. Luma pic. I'm sorry, I've been doing this for too long. Luma posts a pic. Julia looks at the photo, and her initial reaction is to ask her whether she's trans.
Yeah. I was shocked.
It's one thing to think it, and looking at those pictures, I'm not quite sure where she got that from. But again, this is 2020, and again, I don't know much about Brazil, but I'm old, and I know that you just don't do that.
It makes me wonder. I was absolutely floored. It's like, just because you think it doesn't mean you should say it.
One thing to
and especially type it out. Oh my God, backspace, come on.
Mm-hmm.
I was floored that Julia actually typed it out, thought this was okay, typed it out, and hit send.
And he does it twice, right? Julia, I'm saying Rob does it again later.
Yeah, massaging.
Right. And, Duma's saying that's not okay. But again, is Brazil 20 years behind the U.S.? Again, hard to believe given how, like you said, more open sexually the culture seems to be. So then all the more so they should understand this is just not a question that you ask.
I don't think Brazil is behind the times in acceptance of things like that. I really don't think so.
And Julia, again, is played by Ron, who is a heavy tattooed biker kind of guy. He's not, some church lady.
Right.
And we're agreeing with each other. It was ridiculous. I don't understand it. It makes me wonder also when she does end up going home, if this is why. We don't see anybody coming back at her and saying, hey, this wasn't okay. But maybe it does maybe it does have implications later.
They didn't come back at her and say it's not okay, but individual conversations with themselves were like, I can't believe she said that. Yeah, I can't believe she said that.
Because people really seem to kind of dislike Julia. And so she's thirsty. She flirts with everybody, but that shouldn't be like such a big problem that everybody must get her out of the building. So maybe it does become relevant later. Who knows?
Yeah.
Now we have another fun chat where Lo chats with a cow, and she says if he's a catfish, he should be shitting his pants because she is a physical therapy student, which we didn't see initially. And so she starts asking him about muscle, or she wants to ask about skeletal muscle and see what he says.
Right.
He starts by saying, I had a hard time in anatomy class, right? And he starts, what does he say? He starts talking about having internship and being at call, not on call.
Right.
Which makes me think he put approximately zero thought into this. Like, even though he said he's pretending to be a doctor, if you're going to pretend to be a doctor, at least, have some idea.
I almost wondered if that was part of the translation, if that was translation error.
No, because she said it's on call, not at call. So I don't think it's a translation error. I think it's obviously it's a different words, but I'm assuming she used the wrong word in Portuguese for something like on call, which any medical student would know. Again, just the kind of thing.
In the US.
Yeah, right. But okay, so I won't give him the benefit of the doubt, but this is exactly the kind of thing that I was worried about. She asks where this particular muscle is. He tries to ignore it, and it is cute what he does. Then he starts asking, "Will the classes be in my house or yours?" Right.
Right.
To flirt.
He turned it into a flirt.
Right. Which is what you should do when you get stuck, except you should never put yourself in that position. I would say something like, I took anatomy a long time ago. I'm a dietitian. If you're a PT, you know a lot more about this than I do. But he keeps congratulating himself on how well this is going.
I don't think it was worthy of congratulations. I don't think he pulled it off, but he presented this information to a girl who's flirting with him that may have been dumber than him. I'm not too sure, but that was my thoughts when I was watching it. It's like, wait, she is totally letting him manipulate her. She's allowing it with this whole thing going on.
It's clear that she likes him. And again, this just might be one of those situations where she already knows this guy isn't a doctor, but she doesn't care. Right?
Yeah, that could very well be.
But I wish
it could very well be.
Told us that. And maybe this is another thing. The cast is not very good at letting us know what they're thinking. I mean, a couple of them are.
Right.
But this is the hard thing about playing the circle. You have to be just able to talk to yourself, and because you don't really have like confessionals. You have to, and we don't. I would just like to have a statement from her that this guy isn't a doctor, but he's cute and I like him. We don't get any of that. Yeah. So it's weird because she totally calls him out, and then now they're ready to move in with each other. So,
yep. Married, going to the Caribbean on their honeymoon.
That's right. It wasn't even just, And I mean, I ship that they're cute. You know, I could actually kind of see it, but he just played so poorly, though. So we get into so end of day 3. They're trying to remove all that glitter from the party. Day 4, what happens? They're just talking about what happened the day before. Yeah. What else? Okay, so then Duma gonna start a group chat with women and gay men that he calls She Fights. Kim, I'm hearing something in the background. Could that be you? Because I'm hearing. Are you hearing it? It's like something is there are noises coming out of my computer and I don't know where they're coming from, and I'm closing everything. But anyway, okay, I'm sorry.
I'm not hearing anything. Yeah, no, the She Fights Club.
My new computer is possessed. Okay, so yes, it's the She Fights chat. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you think about this?
I think it's a good chat.
Mm-hmm.
To be honest with you, I think we're going to see alliances come out of this chat that are going to protect each other when they become influencers and have to look at who potentially to get rid of.
Right.
I think this will be the stronger of the alliances that have come out of this.
Yeah, I mean, it starts with Duma and Julia fighting about her being thirsty and thirsty auntie and all this. But you're right that, once they get rid of her, the rest of them might actually. And again, it's also interesting because they don't know this, but because, Luma is actually 2 gay guys, right? They really do. But Luma also seems to be pretty sharp. He says that Duma keeps attacking Julia, and that's going to be a problem.
Right.
Then we do the Let's Dance game. This was fun. I thought this was fun.
I thought so.
Right.
I thought this was creative and original. When you've already seen 3 different series of the Circle, I thought this was one of the more original things that they did as a challenge.
Right. And now that they own it, right? So I'm assuming we're going to see this again. But they
probably.
How would you describe this? It's like a bodysuit that has like sensors in it. Yeah. And so it just, I'm bad at describing this. I mean, I've seen it in like dance groups that use it and they dance in the dark with all the lights or whatever.
No, it's a virtual reality suit is all it is. So
for dancing, yeah.
So you put it on and you dance and you get the virtual reality image that is of you dancing, but it's gender neutral. You can't tell if it's a man, a woman, tall, short, doesn't matter. There's no color involved in it. It's transparent. Yeah. So
this is a great. Whoever had this idea, it's a great idea.
I thought so too. For this show, it was perfect.
Right. I wonder if there are other things like that they can find. But anyway, unfortunately, they find somebody, and one of the 2 from Luma, I can't tell Marcel and Lucas apart. But and maybe they've done this on purpose, that they specifically picked him because he knows how to make different do every dances. Right, he dances. Again, some dances I know, a lot of these dances I've never heard of. Then the ones who got it right, they get a reward. Well, the reward is what? It's a certificate. and then they get coconut water in a blingy water bottle.
Right.
If you're going to give them rewards, shouldn't it be a little bit better than that? I don't know.
I don't know. They've only been in there 4 days and they've gotten like 3 boxes at their door. So
right. Okay.
I don't think they went short on budget, so to speak.
Right.
And who knows? This may be kind of a clue to what's coming up as far as other prizes.
Maybe.
Maybe the next prize is a beach trip to the Caribbean.
Right. Well, because that would make more sense to me than a blingy water bottle. And a certificate that says, I'm good at this game. And that's like something what like your 6-year-old would bring home from like first grade.
Yeah,
like,
pretty much.
You would bring this home and like frame it. I mean, other than it being a souvenir, I thought it was pretty silly.
Let's think about this though. Lola and Lucas.
Yeah.
We're coloring.
This is another thing that drives me crazy. There are 2 Lucases in this game.
No, there's Luma and then there's Lucas.
No, but I'm saying Lucas, I mean, Paloma is also playing as a character named Lucas. And then
which would be Lucas. And then that's Luma. They're not individuals. They're playing as one.
No. But I'm saying, but the 2 people who are actually Luma, one of their names is Lucas.
Right. I know, but they're not called Lucas.
Anyway.
Yeah. So I don't even refer to them as Lucas and Marcel. That's Luma. And then Lucas.
The name. Yeah, you're right. Just probably refer to the character. Okay. So Lucas, what were you saying?
So Lucas and Lola are coloring. So this is the generational thing. You know what? They got a certificate. They got a participation ribbon is what they got.
You're right. Maybe these days, right? You do something, you get a ribbon.
It's like, woohoo, I participated. I get a ribbon. I get a certificate. Whatever.
Right. Okay. They raid again. The one thing that was interesting was JP gives Julian number 1 and in reverse, I think he gives her like the lowest. I can't really keep up with all the ratings. Gable does give Juma 4 because of leaving the guy's chat. That was, he didn't like that. Julia puts Marina number 1 because she saved her once. Maybe she'll do it again. Low rates Akel pretty highly and says that they're becoming a partnership, but I think Akel gave Low like a 4. So again, just the discrepancies. I find it most interesting, just like when people think one person thinks that they're the closest people in the game, and the other one gives them a 5. So now, have we talked about like the limits that they have on chats? I know that we need to keep moving, but just the people now, because people are like, well, why didn't we talk to this person? Why didn't they talk to why don't you talk to everybody every day? Because that's what you do in Survivor and Big Brother, right? The reason that you don't do that in Circle is that the number of chats that you can do are limited. Because I think partly because with just production, you need somebody to actually be there typing out what you need. And even in terms of the editing, that they just can't deal with the amount of footage they would have if everybody was chatting with everybody all day.
Right. And I know they do limit the number of chats, the number of one-on-one chats versus group chats, which is why you see some people more involved in group chats because they feel like they can cover more territory like that. And other people,
on the other hand, that's an interesting question because that is an advantage. And I've heard, I think Scooby said that they can chat 3 people a day with 3 groups. Right. So if you want to check in with everybody every day, then you can do that with a group chat. But then obviously you can't really strategize or talk seriously one-on-one. Okay. Luma JP flirts. Luma wants to fly the catfish, more of the game, more of the name. Results. Gable, number 8. Not surprising. But it's funny, it's not just because he's a nerd. Like JP calls him an ass kiss. Now, JP calls Gable an ass kiss. Now, I've been arguing that kissing ass is how you play this game. Is the problem with Gable that he's just not subtle enough?
He's not subtle about the ass kissing. It doesn't come off as sincere. And I think that's the difference between forming a friendship and kissing someone's ass is the level of sincerity involved. It's why Survivor players are successful or not. It's why Big Brother players are successful or not. is if you can kiss ass and make it completely sincere,
Right.
you will go far.
So Gable kind of knows what he should be doing. He just doesn't have the skills to be subtle enough.
Right. He doesn't have the
to do
skills.
what he feels like he should be doing. It's just not working.
Right.
Lucas comes in 7th, and Duma says, you don't show us anything about you, which again goes back to what I said before. Julie and JP number 5, they're tied. Akel is number 4, and again, he is extremely happy, which is, you know, and also, what did you think about this? Because on the one hand, you don't want to constantly be an influencer because it puts a target on you. On the other hand, obviously, the influencers are safe. So is Akel right to just really keep shooting for that number 4 spot?
I think right now that with his looks and his flirtations that are obviously going on, that other people have noticed, I think that he is better off sitting in the number 4, number 5 spot. I think 3 is too high, and I think 1 or 2 puts a target on him next round. I think he needs, I think at least for probably maybe another episode or 2, he's better off staying in that 4 or 5 position. For him.
I basically agree with you. I'm just saying, but it is a slight risk in the sense that you are vulnerable to be voted out. And clear, you know, it's not like they're not going to necessarily just vote off I think they should already realize they're not going to just necessarily vote off the lowest person. So Duma comes in 3rd, and he said, it's time to touch people's hearts. Right. Luna had told him not to stop attacking people, so he let her. Julia's talking about sex, and he lets it go. So at least he can learn. Marina's number 2, Rose number 1. Marina, this is interesting. Marina is wearing the crown. She's calling herself the queen. Right. We go into the blue room. She walks in. She says, you know, I'm powerful. This is my moment. Your queen is here. Is this the worst case of HOH I guess you've ever seen?
I was actually very, very surprised, just because she was in tears not too much earlier. And again, this was that whole body image piece, you know, so I was actually quite surprised that who knows, maybe this is the first time ever that she was the popular girl, that she came out on top, that they appreciated, because she even made the comment of, it's nice to know that I'm accepted for myself when they can't see me. And it's like, okay, which is where I keep coming back to with this whole body image thing. So I think these are small victories for her. And it led up to a big ego win.
Right. It's interesting that you say this, because again, I'm somebody who's, you know, a little bit larger, and I would think that I would be very sensitive to that. But like I said, we talked about this, just the fact that the pictures that she posts make it very hard for me to believe that she has body image issues. But, you know, she lives in the society. She probably very well have, you know.
But look at the pictures she's posted. They're like shoulders and above.
You're right.
Up above from that angle.
Right. So we have seen her twerk, and we have seen what she wears and everything, but that's not what we're seeing in the circle.
We have seen that.
Right.
They haven't seen that.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So
who knows? You may not read
the moment when she does post a full body pic, do you think?
I think we're going to see the dramatic breakdown moment when she eventually does, and it's going to be very interesting. I think it's going to be interesting to see. I think it's going to be comparable to the US version when our catfish revealed that they were a plus size model,
right?
And I don't think she has the confidence maybe that like Jessica had on Big Brother, for example. Right. Because she was very confident in her own skin. And I thought
the same thing was true of her, though, because, you know, she starts with, you know, Mike, she talks about her butt. You know, that's like, to me, that just, I thought I saw her as somebody who's really confident, but it'll be interesting to see how.
I don't think so.
It'll be
I
real.
don't think that's
Plays
I
out.
don't think that's confidence. I think that's compensation.
Hmm.
Just because of some of the other subtle things that she has said. So I think that the circle is her form of acceptance because they're only seeing as much of her as she's willing to reveal to them, which so far is all pictures from here on up. And like I said, she is gorgeous,
Oh, yeah.
but also look at the angles of the pictures. They're being held up here. Why? Because then you're looking up because you look thinner when you do a selfie that way.
Right.
So I think she was very selective in which pictures she would use to give that image without being deceitful about it.
Right.
So that later on they can look at it and go, oh, that's totally you.
Right.
But she's only giving
not like
them
what we had with the Catfish where somebody was actually using somebody else's photo. She uses her own photos. She's just very selective. And again, that's basically how I post. You know, I mean, I do have a body shot, but I'm certainly hesitant to do that. So, but I don't have the kind of body confidence that I thought that she had. Well, anyway, Kim, this is why you're a winner and I am not.
I don't think she's as confident. And I think that if she finds a connection with somebody who accepts her at the level that she feels she needs to be accepted, that she will be loyal with them to the end.
That certainly makes sense. Because this is something nobody grows up in a larger body in this society without having some effects of that, even today. So maybe you're right that this is how you get her as an ally for real.
I think it would be real. I think it'd be very, very strong.
Yeah.
And I think it's going to come down to who, and I hope they wouldn't use her in that way, but who can convince her that they are her person.
Right.
You know,
like you said, I don't know if anybody's lying about this or manipulating her in this way. Right. It would be much worse than it would be for anybody else.
Exactly. And I don't want to interrupt, but I've got a conference call for work in 6 minutes.
Ooh, okay. So you know what? We are going to stop with episode 3. Let me just finish episode 3 in 5 minutes, and then we can discuss what if we are going to be able to do season 4 or episode 4 in the future.
And to be honest with you, I mean, I didn't feel like there was a whole lot of content in episode 4.
Yeah, there's not. So let's see who goes home. So the results, right? Oh, that's right. And Julia goes home, which we kind of already talked about, right?
Pretty much.
Right. So they send Julia
home. Went home. Julia's super pissed. Super pissed.
I know.
About being voted out.
I know. And that's why it is funny that, you know, Marina's hiding under the table because Julia makes knives. Julia gets to pick somebody to meet. Looks like he's wearing a kilt. Right, Rob is wearing kilts, and that is the end of episode 3. Okay, so thank you, Kim. I'm sorry that I tend to talk a little too much, as you probably know.
That's not a problem. I was fully prepared for 2 hours. I was fully prepared to even go 2.5, and then
it's been 2.5. I had no idea. All right.
I'm like, oh my God, I've got a conference call.
Right. Go do your conference call. Thank you so much for joining me. You can just go if you want, and I will end the podcast without you if you want me.
No, I'm fine. I've got 5 minutes now, so I'm good.
Not much. I just wanted to say just thank you to Kim for joining us and everybody else. And just because this is Survivor NSFW / the Circle NSFW, I do have to say that if you buy any t-shirt right from JohnnyFairplay.com, you get a call from Johnny Fairplay. And the one that I'm wearing right now, if you see, this is Chris and Joey and Rebecca and Sammy and Shuby. This is the shirt that we made for the Circle West. They are still available on SurvivorNSFW.com. I should know more about what you're covering in the future. Obviously, he is covering Survivor Winners at War. There will be a live after show on Wednesday at 9 p.m. And thank you, everybody, for joining me, for putting up with me as I learn how to do this. Thank you so much.
It was awesome. Thank you so much for having me on. I really appreciate it. I love talking anything reality, so I'm good with it. Ask me back anytime, and I'm here for it.
Okay, awesome. Thank you, Kim.
Okay. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.